Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the question and answer Sunday. I guess I'll start calling these videos. On Sundays, I'm going to do question and answer videos, and the first Sunday of every month, though, is the Subscriber Sunday video if you want to send in photos for that. In this video, I'm also doing the drawing for the 3 pairs of Corona pruners that I announced 2 weeks ago. There's a pair being given away from comments on Instagram, comments on Facebook, and comments on the video where that went up. I had a lot of comments. I randomly drew the winners already, just like I always do with that random comment picker that you guys have seen me use. I'll announce those winners in just a few minutes. A couple other things on the channel. Yesterday I went over 40,000 subscribers. The channel went over 40,000 subscribers. I really appreciate that. The channel's almost doubled this year, so that's really amazing. Welcome all the new people, and thanks to all the other, the folks who've been around for a long time. YouTube's a weird place. It takes the first year, it's like crickets. You get 10 views on a video and 5 of them are yourself just making sure the video is working properly, weeks after you put it up. And then you look back on those videos now and they have tens of thousands of views. It's so strange. It takes YouTube a little while to trust you and put and recommend your videos and know that people will interact with them. Because when you guys hit the thumbs up button or make a comment on it, YouTube translates that as that video is helpful. That's what it translates it at, and it moves it up through the rankings. And you guys have done that for me, so I really appreciate that. I spent the last couple days at a plant symposium with plant breeders from all over the world, and I try to do a lot of continuing education stuff. And you realize when you sit in a room with 150 plant geeks how little I actually know. After 33 years of working from being a landscape contractor, working for other landscapers, having worked in high-end garden centers, having had my own nursery, having propagation nursery, having taught propagation, having started multiple retail locations, and make these videos as some sort of expert. And then you sit in a room full of people who are really experts in a particular field in this business and go, wow, I don't know anything. That redbud video I put up 2 weeks ago that I shot right here. I love redbuds. I've always loved redbuds. They're just probably my favorite tree. If I was going to pick a favorite tree. And then you watch somebody stand up and give a talk on redbuds where they're hybridizing them, and you go, I don't know anything about redbuds. It's a really interesting business to be in, because you can never truly learn all there is to learn. So anyway, let me answer a few questions here, and like I say again, appreciate all the support you guys have given the channel, and then I'll read off the names toward the end of the video. If you want to skip the question and answer part, it'll be in the last 30 seconds or minute of the video. Like I say, I'm just going to take a few questions each week. I'll go back on these lists and continue to answer them. If I'm not getting new ones, you guys can leave new questions at the bottom of this video for next week. Somebody asked about propagation timing of spirea. Pretty much any woody shrub, this is the time of year to be propagating it. As the new growth is hardening off, before it becomes woody along the stems, that's when you want to do it. So typically I would start looking mid-May every year, but nothing was really ready at that point. By mid-June, almost everything in the nursery was ready for us to be taking cuttings on. You get the highest success rate during that period of time. You can propagate year-round, but if you want great success comes in the early summer propagating woody shrubs for sure. It's this year's growth slightly hardened off. Then somebody asked about watering newly planted trees. I do the drown and forget technique, where I put the water hose at the base of it and I just run it, and I kind of flood irrigate the whole space, and then I do let them become pretty dry. I stress them a little bit. Don't want to stress them a lot, but I want to stress them a little bit, because I've dug plants up many years after they've been planted and the root ball just come out intact, because the person, either the space or the individual, kept the plant so wet that the plant really never had any reason to go search for water. The need to search for water is what makes the plant go out and root into the surrounding soil. So keep that in mind. We don't want to drought stress them to the point we hurt them, but we want to allow them to dry out enough that they chase water and root out into the surrounding soil and then and become independent from us. Somebody asked about planting bulbs. Finding bulbs that you had bought that you didn't plant. I don't know whether they'll live or die, but you do need to get them in the ground. I don't care what kind of bulb it is. If you bought it and then forgot about it for 6 months, it needs to go in the ground. I don't know whether it'll live or die. I always have bags of bulbs that I have not, that I just haven't gotten around to. I've got several. I've got irises here that I haven't planted and some dahlias that I haven't planted, and I'm assuming I've lost a few of them. I just haven't had time to do it. I'm hoping to get them in the ground this week. That's why they're on the front porch. Somebody asked about pruning knockout roses. Just said that they had kind of, pruned them back like they were any old, any shrub, rather than being very particular like you might be on old-fashioned roses. Knockout roses are super, super tough. They can be pruned like go after pretty hard like any other shrub. Here's the problem with knockout roses. We have a disease called rosette that is, man, I've seen a lot of it this spring. It's gonna, I was hoping it wasn't going to move as quickly as it seems to be moving, but I've seen a lot of rosette this spring. It's a disease that makes the new growth on roses look really, really weird. And the roses need to be removed when that happens. My only point in bringing that up is if you're pruning roses, don't let anyone else prune your roses. This is one of those situations where landscapers need to be cleaning their tools after they prune someone's roses and move to the next house. Because after they bloom here would be a good time to cut them back a little bit. They're in full bloom in my area right now, or just maybe on the decline. So it's time to prune them pretty soon if you want to get a second flush on them. Landscapers need to be cleaning their tools between jobs, and homeowners need to be cleaning. I would probably clean, if I use this set of shears, I'd probably clean them between each plant and use some sort of bleach mix, maybe, I don't know, small percentage bleach in water, clean them and then rinse them off, and then move to the next plant. Otherwise, we're going to spread this disease even faster. And so keep that in mind. Rosette, if you want to look it up, it's a problematic to say the least. Somebody asked about recommendations for foundation plants. The best thing I can really do on that is tell you that I have a playlist for foundation plants on the channel. If you go to the channel homepage for HortTube on YouTube, there's a tab that says channels, or a tab that says, not a tab that says channels, but a tab that says playlist. If you hit that tab, you can go down and see all my playlist. I've put all the plants that would work well as foundation plants into a group called Foundation Plants, and you can go through that list. I bet there's 100 plants, maybe 150 of the plants I've covered on this channel would work as foundation plants, and I've put them into that playlist. I get a lot of questions on the horticultural zone map, and I'm always just, in a video, I just go, it grows in zone 6 to 9. I can't really cover the zone map in every video, so it's, I know I leave some people that are new to gardening questioning what the heck the guy meant by zone 6 to 9. The horticultural zone map was, I think, made in 1970, the USDA released the first zone map. I may be wrong, it might be 60. I think 1970, the first zone map was released. It actually goes back even further than that. I think a gentleman at the Arnold Arboretum, like the early 1920s, put together a first map of basically average low temperatures for different places in the country. And we used that map, the USDA took it over, I think, in 1970. I think they refined it in like 1990. And it's basically zones 1 through 11, and I think they've added 12 and 13 for Puerto Rico and Hawaii, I think. But they divide the country based on your average low temperature in 10 degrees. So it's Fahrenheit, not Celsius, but so 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So like I think zone 5, your average low temperature is between like -15 and -20. I'm in zone 7, and zone 7 is, I think, -5 to 0. That's where our average low temperature each winter over the history of the zone map has landed. We've had colder nights than 0, but the average has landed between 5 and 0. And then the map was actually later defined into A and B. And so rather than having it in 10-degree increments, it was divided into 5-degree increments. So I'm in zone 7B, more specifically, almost 8. I'm right on the edge of 8, probably am in 8 at this point. But the map, like I say, it was updated in 90. The map works extremely well in the eastern part of the country, extremely well. Like if you told me your low temperature for the winter was -20, I could probably, and you were in the eastern part of the country, That's zone 5. I can probably tell a lot about your area. You probably are in Vermont or Michigan or Maine, and you probably have you know, quite a bit of average snowfall, and you probably you probably have a very long spring and probably a very short summer. Maybe some 90-degree days, but not a whole lot of them. If you told me your average your low temperature for the winter was 5, I can deduce a lot in the eastern part of the country from your average low temperature. So it works, the map works extremely well for defining where plants will grow in the east. In the west, it just completely breaks down because elevation is not taken into consideration on the map. So you can live in the mountains of Arizona and be in the same zone as someone in like San Francisco, but be at 7,000 feet of elevation, and that, you know, completely different space. Plants don't, you know, that there'd be a separate set of plants even though you're both in zone 8 or 9 or what, probably 9 in San Francisco. You would be so it kind of breaks down out there. It also it breaks down for elevation. It also breaks down because of the heat. You could be in zone 9 out west, and another example would be San Francisco. Let's say Seattle probably is zone, heck, Seattle may still be in zone 8 along that coast. And their high temperatures are only 85 or 90 degrees. You know, for the year, I don't know what their average is, but I'm just guessing. It never probably gets extremely hot for any length of time, but then you could be in a desert area out west and it'd be 115 or 120 and have the same average lows for the winter. So really, like I say, in the west, the map doesn't work quite as well as it does in the east, but everybody in the east, it's a reasonable start, a reasonable guess as to where a plant would grow, and that was an extremely long answer. I apologize. Somebody asked about fertilizing wax myrtles with holly-tone. Again, I would say, again, get your pH checked and make sure that you actually need to be using holly-tone, that you need to be using a fertilizer for acid-loving plants. If you get your pH tested, and your pH is below 6, I don't think you probably need to be using holly-tone for very many things. You can just use plant tone if it's above 6. A lot of these shrubs that you see on my channel, like acid-loving plants, and probably would appreciate holly-tone. And then they ask about adding a second application of fertilizer. And the answer to this is yes, as long as it's an organic fertilizer. I've got this in an upcoming video, planting some hydrangeas right back here behind me. That video will be up in the next few days. And I talk about this this time of year. If you're fertilizing this late, organic fertilizers become more important. The reason they become more important is because organic fertilizers feed the microbes in the soil, and the microbes basically feed your plants. Okay, it's a complicated system, but that, you know, that's to make it sound the easiest I can make it sound. Organic fertilizers feed the microbes feed the plants, or make nutrients available for the plants. Those microbes slow down in the fall because the soil temperature drops, and when they slow down, the fertilizer becomes less effective on the plants. That's great because the plants need to go to sleep naturally in the fall as it cools off. And so as the soil temperature drops, the fertilizer becomes less effective. The plants are able to go to sleep naturally. That's great. If you use a synthetic fertilizer or high nitrogen fertilizer late in the season, in June or July, it feeds your plants directly, and it can just push your plants right into fall and really have them still growing well into fall and allow the winter to damage them more easily. I hope that makes some sense. But early in the season, I don't think it matters as much. Definitely summer fertilizing or trying to put a second application of fertilizer out. Go for an organic fertilizer, and you will hopefully not get as much winter damage that way. I got a couple, there were the plant symposium I went to for the last couple days. We were bidding on plants, and I got this really cool Cryptomeria right here. It's a gold foliage variety. It's called Limeade. I can't wait to get this one in the ground. But there was a rare plant auction, and I couldn't resist getting a few things from that. Okay, so the three winners. The winner from Instagram, from the comments that were left on the Instagram post for the Corona pruners. Thank you very much again to Corona for participating in the channel and several giveaways they've done over the last couple of years. Is Pie Marine. The Facebook winner is Tammy Travis, and the YouTube winner is Peggy Krantz. Thank you guys for participating in this video. If you have additional questions, leave them at the bottom. I'll continue to go back and find more questions from the older videos and try to get ones that I think will help the most people. Thank you very much for watching this video.